Here's how it went. Before I was born, my dad left. I didn't know him until later. In hindsight, I never did. My mom raised me by herself until I was around 6 or 7. Then she married Harold. Harold worked for United. I've been told she married him to provide a home for me. She loved me. And Harold married way out of his league. In the next 2 years, my mom found out she had MS, spent a lot of days away with my scoutmaster, which I'm sure didn't scar me at all, and parted ways with Harold. She would deteriorate fast enough that I'd end up in a foster home by the time I was 9. They kicked me out after 2 years. I was rebellious back then, too. The state found my dad in South Carolina. He took me in with his wife and 3 kids, and his new wife thought I was a bad influence. She would prove to be fairly right later on. Not sure if they were an influence on that. After a year with my aunt, who introduced me to weed, she sent me back to my dad, making sure to tell him that I was smoking weed. The story has it that my dad's wife threatened to take the kids and leave him if he took me back in. Deserted in South Carolina, I ultimately ended up in a children's home. It's the same children's home that I've made several motorcycle runs to at Christmas time with gifts for the kids. It's my way of giving back. I'd lost touch with my mother's side of the family shortly after my aunt sent me away. With everything that happened, and at that age, I didn't need them. I was fine on my own. Not that I ever rejected them. They just stopped trying, and I learned to deal with that. I suppose I'm as much to blame. Leaving the children's home, I went to Myrtle Beach to live with a friend and his mom, who pretty much adopted me. I was too young and too damaged to appreciate it at the time. A few of us guys met some girls on vacation, fell in teenage love, the kind where nothing else matters, and followed them to Ohio. Through a number of circumstances, that's where I ended up joining the Army. Jump ahead several decades, 2 marriages, 3 kids, and a lot more details than anyone has time for. And like the fish that come home every year, I'm back in the area where I lived as a teen. But my dad passed away about 8 months before I moved. Though I tried, I hadn't talked to him in 30 years. He was the last one left who might know what really happened and why he left. Was it him? Was it her? It wasn't about blame. It was about answering a lingering mystery. I may never know. Everyone was gone now except my half-siblings, and I'm not sure it's the kind of thing that would have been discussed with them. Seems like everyone just wanted to forget it. The other day, I was enjoying my favorite Taco Bell and got a DNA match on Ancestry.com. It was a close match, and the last name of Hanley sent up a flag. This person tested her son, and we're genetically really close. My first thought was, it wasn't me. Actually, it was 2 generations up. Here's the kicker. When I was around 5, my mother told me to tell people that my last name was Hanley. She said someone was looking for us and didn't want to be found. It's kind of X-Files and a weird thing to tell a small child, but that may be why I remember it. It may be why I grew up with those recurring dreams of my mother being kidnapped, but the Hanley thing passed. It turns out that Don and Ron Hanley were twins. Don was in Honolulu. My mom was in Honolulu. While she was there, she took several pictures of these people, and I've had these pictures for years. This is my mom. These guys look like twins. Could told me this is Ron. This is Joe. I like Joe. She has a nice face. Joe's still with us and confirmed that Don was with a barber and her kids in Hawaii. Wait, kids? This is Don. I have other pictures of my mom with Don, including one that says, Florida, 1964. Don caught me off guard before we went to his reunion. Let's get back to the kids. With a little digging, I found out that Don had 2 other kids when he was hanging out with my mom. I've always had this picture, but assumed they were cousins. This is the same corner taken in the other photo. This is Florida. Why are these kids here on Christmas? I think they may be my half-siblings. A little more digging, and I found that Don and my mom were married for a little over a year. What happened there? Still lots of questions. A few more, perhaps. Thanks to DNA, a few less. Apparently, I have some close family out there I've never met, and a whole lot of backstory. And apparently, according to the DNA, it looks like I'm not a Lonsberry at all. Chris Hanley? Easier to spell. But I'm leaning towards keeping Lonsberry. There's just too much paperwork to change to become a paper Hanley. But it's a whole new reality today, and I feel like a new man.